had been like dying, that sliding down the mountain pass. It had been like the death of someone, irrational, that sliding down the mountain pass and into the region of dread. It was like slipping into fever or falling down that hole in sleep from which you wake yourself, whimpering. We had crossed the mountains that day, and now we were in a strange place, a hotel in central Washington in a town near Yakima. The eclipse we had traveled here to see would occur early the next morning. To put ourselves in the path of the total eclipse, that day we had driven 5 hours inland from the Washington coast where we lived. I watched the landscape innocently like a fool, like a diver in the rapture of the deep who plays on the bottom while his air runs out. Early the next morning, we checked out. It was February 26, 1979, a Monday morning. We would drive out of town, find a hilltop, watch the eclipse, and then drive back over to the mountains and home to the coast. How familiar things are here, how adept we are, how smoothly and professionally we check out. And off we went, as off we have gone to 100 other adventures. It was before dawn when we found a highway out of town and drove into the unfamiliar countryside. We drove at random until we came to a range of unfenced hills. The hill was 500 feet high. Long winter-killed grass covered it, as high as our knees. We climbed and rested, sweating in the cold. We passed clumps of bundled people on the hillside who were setting up telescopes and fiddling with cameras. It extended south into the horizon, a distant dream of a valley, a Shangri-La. Distance blurred and blued the sight so that the whole valley looked like a thickness or sediment at the bottom of the sky. Directly behind us was more sky, an empty lowlands blued by distance. Now the sun was up. Up in the sky where we stood, the air was lustreless yellow. To the west, the sky was blue. We cast rough shadows on the blowing grass, freezing. And it began with no ado. It was odd that such a well-advertised public event should have no starting gun, no overture, and no introductory speaker. I should have known right then that I was out of my depth. Without pause or preamble, silent as orbits, a piece of the sun went away. And in its place, we saw empty sky. What you see in an eclipse is entirely different from what you know. It is especially different for those of us whose grasp of astronomy is so frail. Given a flashlight, a grapefruit, 2 oranges, and 15 years, we still could not figure out which way to set our clocks for daylight saving time. Usually it is a bit of a trick to keep your knowledge from blinding you, but during an eclipse it's easy. What you see is much more convincing than any wild-eyed theory that you may know. The sky's blue was deepening, but there was no darkness. The sun was a wide crescent like a segment of a tangerine. Only the thin river held a trickle of the sun. I turned back to the sun. It was going. The sun was going. The world was wrong. The grasses were wrong. Their every detail of stem, head, and blade shone lightness and artificially distinct as an art photographer's platinum print. This color has never been seen on Earth. The hues were metallic. Their finish was matte. All the people you see in the photograph, distinct and detailed as their faces look, are now dead. The sky was navy blue, my hands were silver. I missed my century, the people I knew, the real light of day. I looked at Gary. He was a dead artist version of life. I saw on his skull the darkness of night mixed with the colors of day. My mind was going out. My eyes were receding the way galaxies recede to the reed of space. Gary was light years away, gesturing inside of a circle of darkness. The sight of him, familiar and wrong, was something I was remembering from centuries hence, from the other side of death. God save our life. From all the hills came screams. A piece of the sky beside the crescent sun was detaching. It was a loosened circle of evening sky, suddenly lighted from the back. It was an abrupt black body out of nowhere. It was a flat disk. It was almost over the sun. That is then where you heard screams. At once, the disk slid over the sun like a lid. The sky snapped over the sun like a lens cover. A hatch in my brain slammed. Abruptly, it was a dark night on the land and in the sky. In the night sky was a tiny ring of light. The hole where the sun belongs was very small. A thin ring of light marked its place, where there was no sound. My eyes dried, the arteries drained, and my lungs hushed. There was no world. We were the world's dead people rotating and orbiting around and around, embedded in the planet's crust, while the Earth rolled down. Our minds was light years away, distant, forgetful of almost everything. We got the light wrong. In the sky was something that should not be there. In the black sky was a ring of light. It was all over.